welcome to the Killzone Shadowfall Spoilercast. I'm your host, Dan Video Games. We thought it would be a good time to revisit the beginning of the 8th generation of consoles. We have the full crew plus one. We got Bob.
Shadows Fall.
From GigaBoots. We've got KZ Excellent from KinoRawGoatswag.com.
Please use the zip line, but only every 3 hours.
We've got Mr. Feel from Mr. Feel's Wild Ride.
Please deal with these alarms, but only once every 3 hours.
And Dr. Aggro from GigaBoots.
They're animals, all of them. Don't you understand that? They have to be exterminated.
I thought this was a Killzone Shadowfall spoilercast, not a Haze spoilercast. I feel like I might get confused a lot during the process of talking about our time with this game. I believe everyone on this podcast played it on their PlayStation 5, meaning we played it at 60 frames per second with, well, I guess it didn't have load times initially either, so that's irrelevant. Is that correct? Did everyone play on PS5?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, imagine someone's like, no, I need the authentic experience. Let me roll it back.
Let me get my PS4 vanilla in here.
Yeah, not even a pro. That didn't exist when it came out.
That's not the authentic experience. Let me go find my old LCD screen from 2009.
Oh,
getting the full experience. So for people who haven't listened to one of these spoiler casts before, what we're going to do is we're going to say a short little synopsis of how we feel, along with making a sound about how the game makes us feel. And then we're going to discuss various plot details, gameplay mechanics, and other things. And you will get a score at the end because you have to work for it. So to start us off on our guttural sound synopsis round, we're going to go ahead and start with Bob.
Killzone Shadowfall is definitely a 7th gen game. Wait, no. 8th gen game. Oh, there you go. Which I bought at launch, was very excited for, and did not finish. I'm going to give it a...
Okay. We move on now to Mr. Feel.
Killzone Shadowfall is the worst thing I've had to play for content.
We now move to KZ Excellent.
I have never felt more miserable playing anything for content on this show, on any show we have ever done. I almost quit like 5 times. Ugh.
Dr. Aggro?
Killzone Shadowfall has, bar none, the dumbest writing I have ever encountered in media. What?
I was so worried he'd like it.
Killzone Shadowfall is a game where, as you stare at it, if you understand graphics technology, it is apparently an 8th gen game. History books will tell you it came out during the 8th gen, but this is, in many ways, 7th gen's magnum opus. I'm going to give a And with that out of the way, we're going to move on to talking about specifics. And God, I feel like each and every person on this podcast has a different thing they want to talk about, but I have a preference on what we shoot first. Let's talk a zipline mechanic that never works except for when you need to use it.
And it's been so long since you used it, you forgot it was in the game, so you're running around for 15 minutes not knowing what to do.
Even better, this game is only 7 hours long. Do you know how hard it is to go a substantial amount of time every time with the zipline mechanic?
Oh my god, I could have used the zipline during the train segment.
Oh, could you have?
Could you?
I don't know, maybe. I fucking forgot it was there.
I spent 30 minutes not knowing how to do the train segment.
For people who haven't played this game, which is most people, the zipline mechanic is a part of one of your 4 drone commands, which you swipe a direction on the touchpad to engage and then hit L1. You are, in theory, able to look at an area, deploy that, and zipline down or over to it. The problem is it doesn't work on basically 95% of the game's surfaces.
Was this something that was heavily in multiplayer? And they're like,
No, I don't think that's in multiplayer at all. Even.
Also, you can zip line down onto surfaces that will just kill you when you touch them because you're not supposed to be there.
I did I can't remember the exact area in the game, but there was one where I swear to God, I stepped down off of a 3-foot ledge, maybe, and just died for no reason. I just T-posed and dead fished. And I was like, that area is deadly?
Yeah,
it looks the same.
Chapter
I did
2.
that in the first area, like the first big open area, when like oh, we gotta prep the dropship and waves of enemies are coming. It's like, quick, get on the dropship. And I was up on top of the hangar, and instead of walking forward and going to the stairs and going down and back toward the dropship, I just hopped down on top of the dropship, which killed me immediately.
Yes, I also did that.
You guys had too much trust in jumping. Even that early in the game, I learned no.
A lot of these levels have, like, so this is a very 7th gen game set free with 8th gen power.
Yes.
And a lot of the level design reflects that, because it's, I mean, aside from all the ride this thing and look at our huge levels with all the complicated shit in it, isn't this pretty? Which it is.
It is.
It was really, really pretty. A lot of the levels suffer from, we were able to make a whole bunch of complex geometry, and some of it's the level and some of it's not.
And you
And
can't
the
tell
parts
by
that aren't
looking.
will kill you.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of that. Okay, so breaking it down by mass, brutally, broad strokes, 40 to 60% of this game, somewhere in that range, is bad stealth segment.
Yeah.
I refuse to do stealth even once.
I was shocked how much of this game you have to play before it becomes what I assumed the game was. A shooter.
That's what I thought too when I first played it. I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of bad stealths. This time I realized, no, just shoot the first guy and keep shooting. Like, they can't stop you.
Yeah, you can shoot a lot of the segments. I think there's one thing with a flying robot where you have to do it, or it will one-shot you.
It's egregious. But the other part of it, I would say, let's say 30%, 20% maybe. And then the rest of it is stock, very straightforward shooter design. But 20% of the game, thereabout, is like huge open levels where it's like, you could tackle this any way you want because we played Halo and we realized that's a good thing. So you do whatever you want. So one of the first areas where this happens is that cliff side. I believe it's level 2 or 3.
That's 2.
Okay. You get there. Sorry, it's hard to count the first areas because there's so many, like, here's you as a child walking around. Which, man, isn't it funny to see, like, the prototype for, like, it's like, you think about Sony first party, right? They always have this moment where the beginning of the game's getting you into the world, like The Last of Us 1, where it's not the normal gameplay. You're just walking around in the special mode we made for the intro because we have a good story to tell. But this is Killzone Shadowfall. It is the dumbest game ever made. But anyways,
like, here, come into the world. Like, no, I watched the opening cutscene. It's too late.
and yet you think it's bad there. You think it's bad there at the opening cutscene where you're already just like doing the Drew Scanlon from Giant Bomb double take. You think it's bad then. Then you get to the audio logs, and on top of everything else you already have going on, it's so fucking bad. Each and every audio log, as Bob aptly put it, sounds like that Futurama joke of, tell my wife I said hi. Like, it's so... No one has a name in an audio log. No one has anything. The first audio log of the game says, I know you're reading this.
Oh, no.
It's like those the notes that were left behind in Mirror of Fate.
Except for they're now voice acted, but still pretend they're written notes. It's rough. It's never been this rough before. It is staggering.
The progression of scenes or transitions in this are insane. Where you'll hit the start of the game where they do the time jump.
Mm-hmm.
And the time jump and there's basically 3 time jumps where they keep cutting back to you with a bag on your head.
Yes.
Over the course of 15 seconds, where I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing here. I don't understand this. There's after you escape and return to your people and talk to Sinclair again
Mm-hmm.
to let him know about stuff. I'm like, okay, they'll fade in and they'll set up that you're going to talk to him about it. They just hard cut to him already mad. And I'm like, this is not how I would direct a scene.
It's really funny.
It's like a cartoon. It's like setting up a joke in a cartoon.
Where they kept doing the time jumps there, I was like, wait, so is these adding? So it's 8 years and 10 years passed and 13 years passed.
yeah.
How old am I?
Yeah, no,
Right?
they kept saying 6 years later, 8 years later, 11 years later, and I'm like, I'm an old man. I need to retire.
Well, how's this guy still working here?
I mean, he aged like gold. This man may be 80 years old at this point.
The future.
Nobody told me being a shadow marshal means I gain immortality.
Oh yeah, you're basically a Nazgul.
So at what point did you guys realize the Killzone Shadowfall, you are the shadow and your fall from graces is the plot of this game? I'm curious at what point you guys were like, oh, how brilliant this title.
Right now.
I'm like, there's got to be some other meaning to this about 2 hours in, and as the rest of the game is your turn from Sinclair, I'm like, okay, sorry, I came here expecting. Anyway,
But you don't betray Sinclair or turn away. You go, hey, Sinclair, I've received new intel. And he's like, the fuck you have? You're dead to me.
yes, that is what literally happens in the game.
He is a cartoon character, and everything that happens and how they close the story of this, it might be, in fact, yes, the worst story told in a video game.
And it's from the ground up. It's intro cutscene, all the interstitial cutscenes, audio logs, but I think it hits its fever pitch. I may be the only human to do this ever. So the E3 segment, you walk up, you land. Now that you're back in Vecta, you look at the statue, and there's the terrorist attack, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the terrorist attack, there are a group of 4 different NPCs standing around having a dialogue. I turned off the sound effects and the music and just listened to them talk for minutes.
Okay.
It's improv.
What?
Of course it is.
They're improving scenes. You can tell by the way the exchange goes. I'm going to upload this to YouTube at some point. But they literally sound like they're ad-libbing what their jobs are and what they do. It's so insane. I can't even express how pieced together and nonsensical this is. He's like, hey, you see that place over there? And he's like, oh yeah, that place. Yeah. The in-game character just points at literally nothing. And then he goes, oh yeah, what's up with that place? And then the guy goes, oh, it's a great place to eat. You can get this. And the other guy just interrupts him with like improv style. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then he goes, oh, so I should try that? And he's like, yeah, and we get a discount. And he goes, oh, right, because we work in that building over there. And I'm just like, what is this?
It's background chatter. It's atmospheric.
I'm having a seizure.
I wish it was like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you see all the people talking. It's just a stream of credits on the left side of the screen that won't slow down.
Yes. But yeah, at every layer, this game, like, character, I would say the writing is terrible. There are actually, believe it or not, parts of this game I like. I would say the sound design is okay, I guess. The visuals are nice and have a neat style. It could look better, obviously, especially when it comes to, well, we'll get to that. But yeah, there are.
The music is way better than I expected.
Yeah,
like it's actually there and good.
Yeah, no, they're okay. So you're escaping New Helgen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you get the sniper rifle, and it's just like, oh, you stealth killed this guy. Now you have a sniper rifle, and a battle's gonna break out. And it starts playing this really cool track as I snipe 4 people really fast, and the battle's over, and now it plays it as I walk through a giant series of catwalks, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And it's just this level of disparity between some elements of the game and what the game literally is gets a little hard to deal with at some point. Because it's just...
And that's a lot of this game, and it's what hurts the most. Is that if you take pretty much every part of this game individually as an idea, a lot of it's really, really neat, and the implementation is just off by a little bit to where the whole thing is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, it really starts breaking down on itself in a way that's insane. Like...
Something that really bugged me, the echolocation thing you can do.
Yeah, pushing right on the D-pad allows you to use your dolphin powers to echolocate.
And only while you're standing still.
Yes, very important.
Don't hold it too long, or you'll be shot from every single angle by hit scan enemies.
Yes, that too. God, that's an insane part of the mechanic. But yeah, highlight.
Remember how lesser games have a mini map so you can see where things are.
Now, we had a very, very small exchange about this game yesterday, in which I said navigating this is the worst, and then you're like, and I think Last of Us Part 2 came up, and it's like, well, this also has echolocation. When you said that, I thought you meant there was an accessibility menu that would tell me what to do. You're talking about the right D-pad thing. I'm losing my mind. That thing is so bad. All the D-pad shit is also really bad. Because it's like, okay, hit up. It'll tell you where to go. It'll point you to the objective, which one does not help almost at all.
Yeah,
it doesn't work if you're moving. You have to stop pressing any other button because it gets confused.
Yeah, the waypoint system in this game is probably the worst part of the gameplay, honestly, because you get lost and don't know where to go a lot of the time.
And then it just
for
doesn't.
Over half the game. Over half my playtime, I did not know where to go.
I think that's a normal experience.
Yeah, and sadly,
I think I'm bringing in some baggage, having been informed by bad 7th gen level design, where I'm like, because when I described earlier your fall from graces and how you quote betray Sinclair and then Aggro screamed, "You didn't do that. You just got intel," and he went insane. That's me in this game's level design too. Where I'm like, yeah, there was a segment where they wanted this, and any reasonable person would go, "How did you know that?"
But anyway, what I was trying to say about the echolocation.
Yeah.
It highlights guys, but only highlights when they're through walls.
Preach.
So you don't see anything extra for like people who are just in the dark environment, which is hard to see around.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Why?
Because they're Hellgassed, and they're dressed in shiny black metal with orange lights, and you're shooting them in Hellgan, which is made of shiny black metal and orange lights.
Why does this game not have a fucking light? Why do you not have a light?
So
you had one in the previous game.
So this is the funniest thing in the world. How would you feel if I told you Killzone 2's highlight is that it has insanely good shadows driven by a flashlight you have attached to your guns? And it looks fucking cool.
You can't have a light in this game. You're playing a shadow marshal.
That makes sense. Okay.
I had to go into the options, be like, I'm going to set the brightness to max. So I can see anything in this video game.
The other problem I have with the echolocation, it frequently lies to you. I would often, before entering a room, scan it.
Oh, yeah.
Then I open the door and it has now spawned enemies.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They haven't spawned in yet.
It does that in the train. It does that in the train.
It does that
which is
everywhere.
insane.
It's just non-fucking stop with this shit. I'm like, there's a storage unit. I'm gonna scope it out with this echolocation. Nothing in it. And I knew before I even stepped in there. I'm like, it's gonna spawn them.
So like I said, like that echolocation thing could be really cool and interesting.
It's not
but
done.
It's implemented poorly and it's just bad.
Yeah.
Well, you see, Dan, your echolocation couldn't detect them because they hadn't spawned from the Hellgan soldier box yet.
Yes,
There's no.
I almost.
Look, they aren't
thought
spiders.
Don't fucking talk about those spiders that come out of the Spider Infinite box.
What a good game. Look, you need to hack the Spider Infinite boxes. Is this hard to understand?
Speaking of echolocation, not telling you enemies because they haven't spawned them in yet. Mm-hmm. I was in what you would consider the final combat zone of the entire game. It's the
fucking room.
Yeah, that nightmare room. Where the nightmare room where it has rocket launchers that were unfinished because I don't know. I guess the game came in too hot because they just don't work half the time.
This game, that fucking rocket launcher. That fucking rocket launcher. One, why can't you hip fire a fucking rocket launcher? Most of the time you're going to be aiming at the ground.
Preach.
The rocket launcher holds 3 rockets in a clip at a time. You cannot fire just by holding it. You have to aim down sights. You have to like have the little target thing pop up, and then you fire. But sometimes it'll just go away.
If you hit the fire button even 1 frame before you're done looking down the sights, and it's like a moment after you seem like you're looking down the sights, because I guess you have to get it comfortable on your shoulder or fucking something after you're looking down the sights. You just put it back down.
Yeah,
you just put it back down.
Is that what was doing that?
Yes. I held down sights and angled my controller counterclockwise, so nothing's touching R2. It still put it down. It just randomly just fucking puts it down. R2 does not matter. This game was made by villains.
I don't remember having that problem on the PS4. Like, I don't know if it's even possible that the DualSense is not communicating with this game properly.
I don't
that was the only
having the
control issue I had.
I'm not even sure I made it to the rocket launcher on my first playthrough, because the first time I bailed out of this game back in 2013 is when you get to New Helgen, you're halfway through escaping, and you go to the City of Sorrow, where you just have a bunch of people monologue about how miserable they are, and they want to be dead, and they want to kill themselves, and they don't want their loved ones.
It's a really good level because you get to have your character on the radio talk about both sides 16 times in the script.
Yep.
Who were the real slaves?
Me for having to play this.
But yeah, the rocket launcher, I didn't have that problem with it. I just, they made it so weak that I would never want to use it. Like, you can't even take out an aerial drone in one shot.
Yeah, it's a splash range. Its splash damage range is garbage. It sucks. It's not good for troops. Like, you would hit a guy.
For troops. When I would shoot somebody, even when their shield was up, I'd kill like 4 dudes.
It's not consistent, though. You can hit a guy directly with a rocket. He's dead. And a man, I shit you not, 2 feet to his right, just gets knocked on his ass. Sometimes it'll do like you guys are saying, where it will kill multiple. But it's so inconsistent that you can nail a dude straight on with the rocket, and the guy next to him's like, "Oh man, that was terrible. I got knocked over." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking? You were 2 feet away from an explosion."
Yeah, the thing I was mentioning before, but got sidetracked by my hatred of the rocket launcher, was in that final combat zone. There's a room on the left side where a bunch of troops pour in all at once.
Both sides.
Both sides. But I typically did the left first, and echolocation didn't bring anything up. And I'm like, well, I have this rocket. I'll just walk over here, aim down sights, directed at the door. And for a while, it never worked. They just wouldn't come out. And 4 times in a row, the second I put down sights, the door opened. And I'm like, you better not. That better not be what you're doing.
I would die and then be like, okay, they're gonna come out of they come out of this room almost immediately. I'm gonna shoulder the rocket launcher and look down at the door. The door, I wait 5 seconds, the door doesn't open. I wait 10 seconds, the door doesn't open. I wait 15 seconds, the door doesn't open. I turn my camera away, the door immediately opens and they start trying to kill me.
It's like in Resident Evil 4 when you're going toward the castle, where if you go backward and always look at the place you entered, the enemies won't spawn. So they won't chase you.
You guys clearly just have not played enough PS2 first-person shooters. This is when I got to there, I was like, "Oh, I'm playing Black. Okay, I can deal with this."
Black,
I don't want to play those.
I feel like Black might be a little bit better than Killzone Shadowfall. I was playing this game and I'm like, I don't even know if Killzone 1 is worse than this. That's nuts.
That exact encounter is what I'm talking about. I feel like you're walking between, like, typical PS2 shooter, you're walking between encounters that are exactly that wrong.
That's yes.
Like, that's how the last 2 levels go in every one of those.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've heard nothing but grousing about this last comet thing in the game. That was almost my highlight of the game. Like, the rest of the stealth through this insanely long, shitty, narrative-driven garbage heap is like, I would absolutely prefer a game that was more that moment.
Yeah.
Because holy crap.
Because the stealth moments are zeros.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no stealth moments.
Bob, there's still moments where you sit on a storage unit while you get slowly moved across an area and you need to snipe specific enemies so that way your friend doesn't get caught.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hide in the container. And then I'm like, where? How do I hide in the container? And then I get shot to death because I wasn't aware it was a hole in the top of the container I'm standing on.
That didn't happen to me. I saw the hole.
I only barely didn't have that happen.
I spent more time playing this game staring at the loading screen, literally screaming, then what do you want me to do?
Me and Aggro had the exact same experience. God. And even in the last thing you do in the game is a stealth sequence, potentially. And I'm like, the stealth in this just doesn't work because they're like, you have a cloak. You can press down on the D-pad to go into your cloaked mode. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that and slowly climb down. Why is half of everyone running? What did I do? But only half the time. And since I'm doing the same thing every time, I'm just convinced the game didn't know I was cloaked half the time. It just didn't understand.
Yeah,
that segment is the worst part of the game.
It has no idea,
bar none,
how to make a stealth game. Like, if you treat it like it went for even a second, it completely falls on its butt, and it's impossible.
Nothing describes how bad the map in this game and the level design that they want you to do in this game is than that last level, where they're like, okay, you need to turn off 2, like, security things, get a gun, and then you need to go in this place and take a shot. All right, fine. I got everything except the taking the shot part. They're like, go to this place, and they point you to it. But there's no place to go over there. They're like, no, you need to go to the center of the map and start going through fucking vents that we're not going to point out to you. And after you do those, and it's like, thank you, YouTube video I looked up because I could not figure out what the fuck they wanted me to do. And after an hour,
Overlook.
I honestly didn't have any trouble finding that one.
Go to the Overlook. Oh, you mean the fucking hidden basement inside fucking 4 vents?
I'm actually struggling.
At least they just gave you invisibility.
I'm still. Wait, are we talking about the end of the game, the very end?
Yeah, the final mission.
Okay. The first couple times I got the other prerequisite parts, I too was like, where the fuck is this? And I kept running around and just got shot to death. Eventually, I was like, oh, it's okay. Now I'm good. Now I just have to deal with the rest of this again. In fact, I think I spent 40 minutes on that last area. Let me check my videos real quick.
Wow. Yeah, that was the shortest thing in the game for me. I failed once and like, okay, and then I just did it.
I spent about that much time, like 45 minutes, because half the times when I failed, it was because the game decided that the stealth mechanics would not work this time.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what the trigger was for. They're locking down. Quick, hurry up, because it happened at a different amount of time every time.
Okay, so excluding the credits, I spent 33 minutes on that ending segment, I think. No. Oh my god, did I only spend like 24? Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, it's tiny.
I felt like a nightmare.
I thought that level was going to be like doing something important, and then it ended up being like I spent probably 15 minutes there and was like, that was it. That was the end of the game. I thought we were going to actually accomplish something.
Okay, no, I
so
spent
much worse
30.
because it came after the fake credits.
Yeah, because after you do a fake credit,
the game's over. Wait.
When they showed me credits after that moment, I went, "This might be one of the worst games I've ever played." Are you kidding me?
I was talking to Bob about this. Were you guys aware that the twist is supposed to be that you're not Lucas Kellen in that ending thing? It's like, yeah, no shit, I'm not Lucas Kellen. You disabled every character sound entirely.
Oh yeah, like it.
Like they thought that was a
immediately
twist.
went, of course.
I just thought he was more grizzled after having been shot in the head.
After being shot in the head, he's a completely silent protagonist. That's just how that happens.
I immediately assumed because I'm like, I don't have my drone.
See, I got it immediately because they go out of their way to have you, for the first time ever, your handprint has the terminal tell you who you are. I was like, there's a 0% chance I'm Lucas.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It's the only time in a 7-hour game that the terminal goes, you are this person. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
You are Lucas Callan.
Man. Yeah, no,
I know.
There was no impression on me that you were supposed to be that character. So when Dan told me it was a twist, I was like, say what now?
Yeah, well, my brain wasn't going to take that anyway because I'm like, how would I get back? In what universe?
Could you imagine you now just look like Hellgast or whatever? You just like have the helmet
I'm going
and
to
the
become
orange.
the Hellgast.
Yes, he's going to become the Hellgast.
Okay, near the end of the game.
That is the other thing. It's clearly a Hellgast voice in your head.
Yeah. Well, see, you could be working. You could be working for them. This could be exactly like Hayes.
Yeah. You see, Lucas was just walking around, and then he got tripped up by another bad cutscene character that will just like stare at you, and is invincible.
Oh, man, we need to talk about that. I guess the amount of cutscenes in this game where total jobbers just become really powerful for one cutscene.
Yes, because they're slightly off camera.
Because our story that doesn't work would not work even more if they couldn't just own you effortlessly.
Like, what's his name?
Bob, they don't even have to be. Yeah, they don't even have to be off camera. Remember when you said go in and kill Tyrion, and then you T-pose at his back for 30 seconds while he finishes a conversation, and then he turns around and owns you.
See, here's the thing.
That was the most insane.
I expected T-posing at him from behind. I expected the guy on the monitor talking to you, right? But I thought the way the rest of that scene plays out is you kill him, and this somehow played into their plan.
Mm-hmm. I forgot he was in most of the rest of the game.
And instead, no. It exploded, but it's fine. It was all a work. He survived so he could be one of the worst boss fights you played.
Yeah.
This is sad. His boss fight is so unremarkable. Oh, there it is. There it is in my brain.
He was the boss fight.
Yeah, because it's a lot less noteworthy than the final like encounter with whatever 30 people or something.
Yeah, his boss fights literally just use the stun drone on him, walk up with a shotgun and kill him.
Yeah, no, it was
I had the minigun.
Oh yeah, if you had the minigun,
I just stunned him and just and then he immediately fell down and was dead.
It was really funny.
This game makes no fucking sense at all. You have a level. There are 10 chapters in this game. Chapter 9 is the one where you take him on. And it's like, okay, objective A is this, and B is this. And that one goes to like W or some shit. And you fight him halfway through it. I'm like, why is this level still going? Why is there like 45 minutes more gameplay after fighting a boss?
See, I was acutely aware of how long this level was going because on PlayStation 5, you could only record up to an hour of 4K footage. So I'm just staring at the timer at the top of my screen going, I'm going to run out of fucking recording time before I beat this goddamn level. It just keeps going. This is insane. Because as I said, this game, like I have all the footage. This game is under 7 hours long. It's like 6 hours and 50 in my experience. Had I not spent 13 or so minutes listening to people improv dialogue.
Because my issue was...
And that level's over an hour.
When speaking to you, I started my game on normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned from Field that if you do chapter select, you can select the difficulty for each one, but you'll have to redo it. And I was like, okay, I think I'm near the end of chapter 9. Maybe I'll just switch after I'm done with it. I was 2 encounters before the boss, which meant there were 18 more encounters left to this level. And I'm just like, I'm in hell. I'm in hell. I can't get out.
Yeah, I gave up literally the second shielded enemies started showing up because it's like, would you like the game to be worse? Here's a new element.
It's really funny because certain guns will actually reduce or remove the shield. But I feel like the damage the damage values of the guns don't translate to their shield reduction
No.
abilities directly, and that frustrated the piss out of me. And I'm like, game, you're going to sit here and tell me that the shotgun is not as capable of removing a shield at point blank as a minigun is from a mile away. Like,
Yeah, it takes about 3 shotgun point blank to make it finally fall down.
Oh, the minigun, it's the most unbalanced thing in the game.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
it
absolutely.
It just erases things.
That's the only reason I beat this game, by the way. I probably would have tapped out if I didn't finally go, oh, there's a fucking minigun on the side in the final encounter room. Let's just run around popping them and running.
I was so mad when I found that after I finally beat that section.
Like, that's the only reason I won, because it's like, this is hell. And I was so tapped out of the game by this point, because the amount of times I played through this, and a checkpoint saved me in such a bad spot that if I died, it would load, and it's like, you've loaded frame 1, you've been shot in 3 different places.
See, I'm blessed. That
It's
didn't
so
happen
bad.
to me at all.
Yeah.
That happened to
the
me maybe
time.
6 or 7 different checkpoints had that,
So-
and I was getting so
That is also such an intensely 7th gen problem. Like,
It's not all. I try not to play games where constantly I start in an encounter in a game and it feels hopeless. Where it's just, my only hope is to figure out where there are health packs so I can take 90% damage and blow it by immediately grabbing it. Because it's my only chance here. As I try to figure out what bad mechanic I have to do to blow up the mech in the middle of the area.
Yeah, about that mech thing. So you do that first one, right? Where there's like a mech walking around and you need to overload these 2 canisters. But then you get to the next one where there are technically 2 mechs walking around, I believe, and another 2 canisters you need to blow up to cause a gravity well to lift you up. I snuck a minigun from the first segment into the second. So that mech shows up and it's like, oh, I'm here, you better hide. And I'm like, no, you better hide. Hit him with the EMP grenade. It immediately blew him up upon arriving to this new area. And I'm like, okay, now let's do what it actually was. And like on the other side of this like miniature part of the map, this segment of the map, it's like, hey, here's a minigun. And I'm like, don't worry, I had it covered. Like, you literally have to trick the game into letting you carry the minigun because you're not supposed to be able to do certain movement types. And through crouching, moving to the other side of a thing, and then picking it up, I was able to bring the minigun over there.
Yeah, I don't know. The walking mechs really weren't a problem for me because you could just use the stun thing on your drone and then shoot them.
Yeah.
Like they were like nothing.
Well, yeah, but if you have a minigun,
Yeah, they
it's just a hot
evaporate.
knife. It's a hot chainsaw through butter.
Yes.
Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
I didn't even understand that you had to get multiple of the canisters to put them into the thing to blow up just a stationary robot in the back of the room.
Right?
So the first time I'm just like, I've done one. I didn't know you have to go all the way around in an area where it doesn't even look like you should even go over there to put in the second one. So I just spent 45 minutes not knowing what to do.
See, when
And
you
just
said
shooting at a giant robot going, well, the waypoints aren't pointing to it like any sane video game, and there's no map, so there's really no hope here.
So when you said this yesterday, I had a stroke because the first canister area is connected by a bright blue cable the size of your abdomen. So
Yes.
when you see that there's one cable that's disabled, the one you blew up, and a second bright blue cable coming out of that stationary machine and going off in the opposite direction of the map, that's when you explore that way.
In that second area, any angle at which you could see that bright blue cable, you are getting shot by missiles.
That is correct.
Yeah,
Like
but that's
you
the
can
second.
see that second canister thing with your echolocation, but only if you're close enough to where you're already there anyway.
Yeah,
That might have
I need
that
to-
might have had my worst checkpoint thing in the whole game. Also, is that first one where the big dude's in the back against the wall that's going to blow up, and there's the walker. The checkpoint put me in the middle, being shot by both of them at the same time.
What a fucking brilliant game.
Where I just literally had to run backwards, and half the time I would die before reaching cover.
Also, I needed to say this earlier, but we just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
The echolocation mechanic is fine if it detects things more than 15 feet away from you. How is it so near range and has this entire mechanic of you can't move, you have to hold it, but don't hold it too long, and then it doesn't detect that far away. Like, I'm completely ass blown because if I
you
was
get
on
95% of that meter's filled, and you now know what's 4 feet in front of you.
Yeah, it's like I could sit on one end of a fucking high school cafeteria and not detect the fucking food lady on the other end. Like, this thing's absurd.
You've maxed it. You've maxed it out. You now know what's 5 feet in front of you. People 30 feet away now know where you are.
Yeah, because they heard the that your echolocation device makes if you overload it.
Dan, clearly the echolocation device is the linchpin mechanic of the tense stealth action game that half this team was told they were making.
You know, honestly, you say that, and it seems true. Like, this game's called Shadowfall. I don't think it was trying to be... Like, guys, you gotta understand. Killzone 2 is nothing like this game. Bob, would you agree with that
I would
statement?
hope so.
There's maybe 20% of the level design in this game that is featured in Killzone 2.
Yeah, I was like, there are little bits of it, like that final encounter. That feels kind of like Killzone 2.
It does,
but with bad guns.
and really not impressive art.
Yes.
Like, it's hard to explain why Killzone 2's art looks better than this, but it has like really good, strong, like spotlight, cool art design stuff.
They had a really cool idea for a level, like a whole universe was Killzone 2.
Yes.
In 3, Helgen originally really cool. I think the torn up version of Helgen is the coolest part of this game.
Yeah.
But you know, that's only a very, very small part.
It is a very small part.
I didn't know anything about the story of any of these games going into it. I just knew they had the cool helmets with the glowy eyes.
Yep.
So when they build the story of you fucked up their planet, now they live next door.
Yeah, when they rented out the entire half of
Batman
planet, I was like,
Superman.
that makes no sense. Well, how do they have?
Yeah.
What do you mean you gave them half the planet? That does.
Are we there?
What?
Yeah, we're there. Let's talk the plot.
So Helgen gets blown up by some shit that I believe the Helghast were doing.
Yes, I think that in 3, the Helghast were making a weapon that could destroy planets, and you've backfired on it.
It was probably Malcolm McDowell's fault. And I would like to note, 2 and 3 have like strong characters. 3's is played by Malcolm McDowell. This game has no one.
Yeah, I thought that I thought that Visari's
daughter, yeah,
was going to be a character, and then she just disappeared.
God. Yeah, so that was probably Malcolm McDowell who did that aggro.
So I'm not really familiar with the Killzone mythos.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of planets, right? Like, I remember somebody mentioning hundreds of surveyed worlds.
Yes, they say that in the game. They say hundreds of surveyed worlds. Yes.
Because I always took it as those 2
have to
planets
go
were
to
the
Earth.
only important ones.
So that's the way the games treat them, but in this game, they say hundreds of surveyed worlds.
Well, they're surveyed. I don't know if they can support life.
Right.
So they give the surviving Helghast half of planet Vectin. And when I say half, I need you to understand, I don't mean like by volume. I mean they circumscribed the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this line runs through cities at random.
Yeah.
And I just...
And that's how the intro starts, is like,
yeah.
oh no, you have to escape because Helgens now own this part, but they're not willing to let you go out.
And are allowed to just kill people. Allowed to just kill people who don't get out fast enough.
They still have their military. They're murdering Vectin citizens because I guess fleeing their blown up planet on starships was a really strong bargaining position.
Yeah, I don't understand this idea that it's like the intro
because
level.
The person who wrote this was like, "Oh, the Berlin Wall. I'm fucking brilliant."
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of "I'm fucking brilliant" in this.
There is so much of this where it's just your intro is you have to get out because I don't know, the people that are refugees off their blown up planet have decided that they're gonna give you problems.
How are there even this many?
They've already built a bunch of infrastructure.
Yeah, how are there even this many? How is it even possible?
How did this situation happen?
Yeah, they should be in like camps in random cities throughout the world, like barely surviving, but somehow there's this huge military force.
Like, you guys need to understand, I know some people have a real disability to understand how stupid this is when it's in a completely fictional setting, but transplant this into any world event ever, And it's just, you start, it's only a little bit before you get to, then we gave the Jews half of the planet and they started becoming super bullies. Like, what the fuck is this? This is insane.
None of the political decisions make sense. None of the logistics make sense. The timeline doesn't make any goddamn sense.
One of the audio logs I picked up says that everybody in New Helgen is starving somehow because this Earth-like planet can no longer support life because they live there now and people are eating each other.
Yes, because they're no joke. Yeah, they are.
Okay,
they're like,
just for context, I didn't listen to a single fucking one of these audio
These
logs.
audio logs are the fucking gold, my friend. So this audio log he's talking about is framed as an interview between a person and a New Helgen citizen where they defend cannibalism because their family has to eat.
What? So did somehow they blot out the sun only on their half of the world?
I don't know.
Also, it became super weird. This is a problem all through the whole Killzone series.
Okay.
So the whole deal is they were originally one race.
Yes.
The Helgens ship off to Helgast.
Yes.
Sorry, the Helgast ship off to Helgen.
Yes.
Because Helgen's the name of the planet.
Helgen's the name of the planet. Helgast is the name of the people, and I don't know how you fuck up something that basic, but go on.
And then I guess that their biology changes enough that they need to wear those weird masks and stuff to come to Earth.
Oh, they just wear that on Helgast or Helgen.
Yeah, and then we find out they're wearing it on Helgen, and it's like, but I thought that the idea was you needed that to survive our conditions.
In Killzone 1, the implication is that they are wearing that mask to come to Vectin.
Yes. And then you go to Helgen, and it's like, you're still wearing these. That's weird. I thought that your biology adapted to that environment.
And then they just look at you and shrug and go, yeah, but Jinro's pretty fucking dope, isn't it?
And then they're living on your planet, and they've somehow altered the environment enough so that it's like Helgen for some reason, but they apparently don't need that because they don't even wear those outfits when they're off work.
So here's the part that blew my mind out. Here's the part that like drove me insane. The area in the intro doesn't look that much different than like chapter 6 or 7 when you go back there.
Right.
Why did that place have Helgen-esque architecture to start with?
Yeah, I don't
know.
They took over and somehow destroyed all infrastructure immediately.
Like, quick, we need to replace these perfectly good domiciles with shipping containers.
They're cannibal starving, but they've like dug miles deep trenches and filled them. Like, what are they shipping to Vectin? What are they producing over there? It's not food. Like, is it guns that are worth a damn? Because Vectin sure as hell doesn't have any of those.
Oh, man.
No gun in this feels satisfying except the shotgun almost, but it just makes people jump and ragdoll when hit. But that's the only time neurons went off in my brain. The minigun just limply deletes things from the game.
Yeah, nothing in this. None of the weapons feel good at all.
I like the shotgun.
I kind of like some of the Vectin weapons.
It sort of lives up to the Killzone 2 shotgun, which is legendary. But I don't have any love for any other gun. I think that the rail cannon concept should have been good.
The transforming main gun?
Yeah, your transforming main gun that gets the railgun function.
I forgot that existed.
That should have been good, but
I used it a decent bit because you have those big floating robot enemies, and you do 2 charge shots, that thing just blows up, and I found myself a lot of times with a bad gun.
Yeah, I just ran.
That mid-range sniper charge shot mode is pretty good.
I feel like the only use for it was near the end of the game because it could erase barriers.
Yeah, it was really good for that. Like, I really loved how when you picked up enemy guns, like, you'd pick up the same gun in different configurations. Like, this one has an ACOG sight. Like, this one's got a red dot sight. This one has a shotgun underslung. This one's got like a rocket on it. And like, it's different depending on who you pick it up from. And it's a neat little quirk that you pick it up and the magazine's half empty because the guy was using it to shoot at you.
I did notice that. I thought that was neat.
It drives me crazy. This game was revolutionary. By this point in time, we were doing a 2-weapon system for most all shooters. This decided it had a 1-weapon system because you always have that bad main gun.
Yeah, that drives me fucking insane. Yeah. Like, even though I think the main gun is a nice crutch because the rail can disable shields and other things, right?
Yes.
it drove me insane that I couldn't replace it. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
I was like, it would be really nice to have a shotgun in something else. It's not this.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't like how limiting that felt, where I'm like, maybe I want a super dumb heavy weapon and then some other thing I'd like.
They did sort of offset that shotgun lack. Like a lot of the Helgen weapons had shotgun as a secondary fire,
Yeah.
but it's still bad.
It's staggering to me playing through this, being like, that was probably my golden ticket to get people to play Killzone 2, and I spent it on Shadowfall.
Yeah.
Like, son of a bitch.
God, do you know there were countless amount of times where if I wasn't just going, what do you want me to do? As I've died and I'm loading into doing it again, I just went, how did they make Horizon? How did they do that? How did they do that? This is like the most beautiful shovelware I've ever played. Like, how did they make an actual good game after this? I don't understand.
That's very confusing.
Before we move on from it, okay. You know when you go in, you sneak in as a refugee. I think it's like mission 4 or 3 or something.
Yes,
Mission
where you're
5, I think.
where you're forced to walk into the camp
Yeah, you walk into the camp.
in the longest forced cutscene ever that has no action.
They scan you like 3 times, and then you pull out a bomb trigger, and then you pull out the main gun, and you have your
drones
drone
on you. Yeah.
Like, what happened? How'd they do that?
Yeah, I didn't understand. Like, that confused me so much that you pull out the thing and I just sat there and just blankly stared, and then they killed me because they saw me holding a bomb trigger.
Yes, that's the best death in the game.
It is
He's
because
got a gun. Bam, bam.
it's really funny because the lady in front of you just goes, he has a bomb. She just sounds so disenchanted with the whole thing. She's like, he has a bomb. And
Just like me.
then the Hellgas dude just looks at you and goes, oh, bang.
I was just, sometimes I just sat there and just let them kill me at times where I'm like, you don't understand what your plan was when writing this game. Like, you know, the end of the game where they felt trapped and then had to make the worst thing in the world.
God, the fucking. So the whole time you're on Helgen because it's all splody.
Mm-hmm.
Like like the whole group of people had to leave this planet because they couldn't live on it anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the splodiness.
Yeah.
And yet you find a permanent military installation
Yes.
Yeah.
that has been producing dozens of destroyer-class vessels.
That was the rise of Skywalker segment.
So why was Sinclair invading old Helgen? No one's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
How did he know about this base?
Oh, did we not tell him about the third faction that was causing the problems? Did he know that through that? This was the thing. It was like, no, they got the stuff.
I mean, he
You don't understand.
He knew that they had the scientist who has the galaxy brain who can make all the good diseases. And that her
Don't talk about it. It's so bad.
It's
It's not a disease.
Is
It's
it
not a disease. Like I had this epiphany because you've seen media.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
A crazy scientist who makes a virus, but it's never actually viral. Like, it's not a disease. It never spreads. They never talk about contagion vectors. And when they turn it on, like, oh, they're activating the weapon because they only ever call it the weapon. Like, all of the giant, white building tower ships, like, get all Scarlet Witchy and start dropping out of the sky.
That's true.
It's just magic. It's a fucking magic button that kills one race or the other because the person who wrote this is brilliant.
And these races can interbreed. These races can interbreed, and the weapon will kill half-breeds, but still only one half.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Also, when he activates that and you're flying through, I was like, but wait, why aren't you dead?
Why
then?
aren't you dropping down? Why is your ship special? Also, why does it do this now? What the hell is with that? Yeah, this writing literally is the worst writing of any Sony title. And as I recall, they published The Order 1886.
Yeah, that was better.
I'm sorry, Sucker Punch.
Yeah, this is what I was waiting for. I'm like, you're pretty rough on Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima doesn't have a guy saying ethnic cleansing screeds, but to make it smart, he's black.
I didn't want to say that.
I mean, that's clearly what they thought was really brilliant.
It's either they thought it was brilliant or like they're like, oh, we can't have a white guy say this.
I was melting throughout this game, but with its story when it was like, no, you don't understand. Both sides are the problem. Go and walk around, see how we're suffering, and then this woman's gonna say both sides 18 times in the script, and I'm like, one, this isn't aging well. Number two, this is so bad. The fact that it's take a tour of suffering to make you care. I was like, no, I don't care. Because the premise of this plot is that the people that are viewed as the antagonists in the other games just move to your town.
We could just keep cutting in on this story, but this part that really kills me is that they have me engage with the citizens of Vecta, right? That they have these people sitting here that I can listen to their dialogue. All their dialogue is one, obviously improv, and two, intentionally superficial bullshit they just talk about, where it's like middle class problems.
Yeah,
all of it. And then you go to Vecta and everyone's like, I just want to die. And I'm like, I get it, game. Jesus.
Yeah, there's the arguing couple that I just blew away with a shotgun.
Yeah, no, that's fair. After tolerating the first guy who's just like, my wife was dead. She died right now as you walked in, main character. I don't know that I could go on. After tolerating that, I totally see how you could just nope out of the next conversation.
I like the third conversation where they're asking for a med kit, and you give it to them, and she just places it on her husband's chest and holds it, and he seems better.
Like, listeners, you need to understand, a med kit in this game, it looks like a blood pouch, but it has like bits of tech in it. So this bitch put a Ziploc baggie on a dude's chest, and then he started feeling
nice right now. Those health packs are fucking Capri Suns.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're adrenaline.
Yes.
So adrenaline will keep you alive from getting shot 450 times.
Adrenaline is a really good system. Also, we want you to press circle to pick them up. Sometimes the game will glitch and make you crouch.
Yeah, I don't know why you have to hit circle to pick them up.
Like, why wouldn't it be square?
Why wouldn't it just auto pick up?
I mean, yes.
Yeah, why wouldn't it just auto pick up? Why can't you hold more than 2 since it wants you to use them to get bullet time as an option?
Who would choose to not pick them up?
And why do I crouch every time I pick it up and then have to walk away from the table I picked it up from to be able to uncrouch?
Did anyone ever have
the experience of the final room in the game?
Have the health packs fall through the world? You know, they just fall straight to the floor.
Yeah, they would just fly off. You think the rest of the planet is as miserable as the half a city that they fucked up?
I assume somehow the Hellgas turned the entire half the planet into that exact city for the whole thing.
And like, I really don't know why at any point for crossing the wall, we didn't like leave this half of the city we were in and go a couple miles north or south and cross the wall there.
That part wasn't written out. It probably doesn't exist.
They put a wall around the whole planet. Like,
yeah, very easy. They did that in 12 years.
Thinking about this game's plot makes me want to die.
It's literally the worst.
I spent the back third of this game going, Sinclair, he's like your father figure, his superior officer. He's crazy. I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to resolve this problem in whatever schlocky way we're going to. And then they went, we have no idea how to do that, so he's just going to kill you.
Yeah, I thought there'd be any sort of, I don't know, small C thing there at the end where he seems to, like, torn up about it, or you have to kill him and you're torn up about it, or anything. Instead, it's just, I guess I have to do this.
The fact that it wasn't a quick time event knife fight on the top of a tower is criminal.
Yes.
The fact that I was
it would have been
upset,
bad and frustrating in a QTE.
I would have taken that because the fact that I just have to suffer through an incredibly dumb and bad final combat section. And my reward is you go up to the top of this cool thing. It's just someone talking at you and you getting shot and then credits. What?
Oh yeah, that guy at the top of the stairs is Malcolm McDonald from the last game. He has a picture of himself framed, so you know who he is.
You recognize him because he's so old
He
now.
had the best speech. It was full cope mode of just him going, all right, well, I've lost, but everyone's stupid, so they'll try again, so eventually we'll win.
Yeah, that's how Killzone 3 is all the way through. He's always in cope mode. It's great.
Oh my god.
I remember
I
the
didn't-
first time playing through this game, like the half the planet thing. It's irretrievably dumb, but I thought maybe this is it's like high allegory, like melodrama. Like it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be like a philosophical supposition.
Yeah,
Right.
you can do that. It's
Yeah.
possible.
And then Tyrion shows up, and his group is called the Black Hand, and the bottom fell out of my hope.
Yup. I can't get over when they're like, you see him walking from a distance later in the game when it's like, oh, that dude's not dead. And they're like, here's the photo we have of him. It's just him with his mouth open looking insane.
I mean, to be fair, try to take a picture of that guy where he doesn't have his mouth open looking insane.
Right?
I'm just like, why is this like this?
This is a game. This game. I could not believe, because keep in mind, when I tapped out on this, it was when I realized that stealth level on New Helgen wasn't over. It was right after all those people cried about
It sure wasn't.
they wanted to die and everything's terrible. And I'm like, is this real? Is this still going? Okay, I don't want any more of this. I'm done. Turns out that was like chapter 7 of 10. And part of me is like, if I had just played through the rest of this game back in 2013, we wouldn't have done the spoiler cast. Maybe I should have done that.
Yeah, that would have saved you. Granted,
I played the whole thing the first time. I knew what I was going back for.
Yeah, I remembered back in the day, we'd talk to Edgar about this, and he'd be like, this is the worst plot I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, I stopped playing.
I had hope. I had hope even through the first level, which was horrible. The first real level.
Yeah.
Not the thing.
Yeah.
Then I realized that carrying these batteries was going to come up multiple times in the game. I'm like, oh.
See, when you did the skydiving thing, I was like, well, that was really neat of them to make this segment for like this one thing. I feel like this was Ratchet. We would have done this into every level. And then they have you reverse skydive, and I was like, okay, yeah.
And then they have you do the really long skydive at the start of mission 8.
That was cool as shit, though.
They're like, we're gonna drop below the clouds, and I drop below the clouds, and the first thing I see is the building that kills me.
Yes.
yeah, that also happened to me.
I just had literally no time to do anything.
Yeah,
that section's really good. I died about 15 times.
I think I died about 3 or 4, maybe
Oh my
just
God.
3.
Like you end that section, and they like give you the tracks to come in on, and then like you pull up and you drop onto the big pad thing. The first time I did it, I overshot that pad because I didn't know I was supposed to like stop. So I went past that building, and the screen like glitched out.
Yeah.
And then killed me.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I didn't know you could overshoot the pad. I thought that shit was automated where it's like it's done. And I guess my brain just goes, okay, put the controller down and just breathe.
So
that pad that's weirdly low frame rate when it comes out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's 15 frames
like
per second.
blubber.
They're like, you won't notice because the game's running really bad right now, but now it's not running
now
bad.
it's not running bad, and it's really fucking apparent every time it happens. On the skydive segment into the generator core, where there are the multiple struts coming out of the center, and they need you to land on one, and they don't give you any idea which one it was. I'm one strut to the left, perfectly centered. I'm like, okay, I made it to the bottom. When it's gonna whomp? And then I'm like, well, clearly I need to go past this. And then the aggro thing happens, and I go, okay, well, clearly I'm just gonna aim sort of for the center of the screen. We'll just wait. We'll just let, and then it deployed it. I'm like, why couldn't you fucking do that on the left strut?
No, I'm thinking about how whenever you go into those zero G modes.
Yes.
For some reason, in certain ones of those, you have an infinite rocket launcher. I'm like, where is this the rest of the game?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're riding on the container with Massar in it, and she's like, there's another container coming. And I'm like, the fuck do you want me to do about that?
I know. That's exactly what happened to me. She was like, they're shooting me. And I'm like, oh no, I guess get out of that container and we'll fly from here.
I got confused because they bring in the droids that come in large clumps. And I'm like, okay, I got to mash it and take it out. Then I shot once and I'm like, oh, they all die as if you did a chain kill in Galaga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're in 0G, you hit X to descend and circle to go up or whichever way it is.
Yeah.
Not relative to you, which would make sense for thrusters on a spacesuit.
No.
Relative to wherever the largest amount of floor is on the rest of the space station level you're on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just...
What the fuck?
They had to make sure that every form of controlling every type of gameplay doesn't feel good.
See, the controls he explained even are just a nightmare of I'm trying to fly around and look at stuff and shoot enemies, and you put moving up and down on X in circle instead of these 2 unused shoulder buttons.
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm just used to how flying works when I turn on no clip in old Quake games. And that's so my brain pretty quickly adapted to that's just how space works.
I hate how accurate that is. You're evil.
It's true, Bob, but that doesn't make it right.
So Bob mentioning Quake, I need to talk about the shooter I played during and after Killzone Shadowfall, which really made it worse. I shouldn't have done that. I made the last half of that game a million times worse. I played Ion Fury.
Oh yeah, no, that game looks a billion times better than this. Like a billion. I've been waiting to play that game, and I knew I could not even look at it while playing Killzone Shadowfall. Luckily, I pre-gamed with some Haze.
Yes, Haze really brought this game up a few notches because it controls so bad.
Haze is actually worse, thank God.
Oh yeah, Haze is a fucking nightmare, my friend.
Yeah, Haze is like a 1.
It's like Aggro sitting here and saying this is the dumbest thing ever written, but he has not played through Haze.
Haze isn't real. It's a social experiment.
It kind of feels like it. I heard that Korn said gaming is their religion and Haze is the shit.
Haze is pretty dumb. Haze is pretty damn dumb. Killzone Shadowfall is the dumbest thing ever written.
Yeah, the question here is, because I haven't seen your video of Haze.
Okay, sure.
Fully.
Uh-huh.
Does the game constantly have scenes where it feels like they're acting like they've made the smartest thing in the world?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called the first 2 hours of the game where they even pull out a slur to call you just to show you how toxic your squad mates are.
I gotta go.
Haze's initial conception is interesting.
Yes,
and could have been pulled off well. Killzone's could not have.
I hear you, and I agree with you on the broad narrative conceit of we divided up half the planet, gave it to the Jews, and they started bullying us. I understand how unbelievably bad Shadowfall is, but man, Haze, oh Jesus. God, I can't. It's inconceivable how stupid the plot of this game is.
You think the Hellgast can tell if it's raining through their helmets?
Let me explain it to KZ and Feel. The drug makes you not see rain. The nectar in Haze makes it so you can't see rain because then you might have feelings.
The nectar filters out negative things to make you feel super badass and confident, so you don't see dead people, you don't see your wounded friends, and it makes the weather sunshine all the time because you're awesome.
Yeah.
7th Gem wasn't real.
Is nectar just is the twist of Haze that nectar is toxic masculinity?
I think that's the subtext of all of Haze.
I'm pretty sure the nectar's just piss.
Yeah, but judging by that Kino Fabino picture, I'm pretty sure it's piss. I thought it was piss before, but then he gave us the concrete details.
Everyone was happy about the piss.
The evidence we really needed. Oh man, yeah. This game, Killzone Shadowfall. I still think it's better than Knack.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna have to test
We
that.
may need to
too.
re-examine Knack.
I have it here on the
I
shelf.
think Knack handled themes of racism better than this game.
Yes, it did, weirdly enough.
God.
Even though it's really one-sided for most of it, I think it handled it
Do they give the orcs half the planet and then
no, Bob, because that would be fucking stupid. I didn't say Knack is dumber than this. That's impossible.
This really is. I had the exact same vibe when it's like, yeah, they have that half. I'm like, this is like Batman versus Superman, where Gotham and Metropolis are next to each other, separated by a small river.
If Killzone Shadowfall featured only one gun and it was the pistol, it had no mechanics, stripped out every mechanic, and the pistol feels terrible, then it and Knack would hang out in the same score range. I don't think anyone here wants to do a Knack spoiler cast.
maybe not too.
Maybe
I
Knack
kind of want to do one based on the premise of it beating this.
it handling themes of racism better because it totally
Yes.
does. But damn,
Typical Hellgas, always living in the past.
oh my god,
I-
Knack, what a nightmare!
I feel like I'll be less confused playing Knack.
You'll be like, I get
I
it.
feel
they're
like I'll be
racist.
less unhappy.
Possibly.
Since I'll probably know where I'm supposed to go most of the time,
Yes.
it'll
Yeah.
probably be less upsetting.
Yes.
Well, see, this is really great because if we do a next spoiler cast, then we can use the relic system that literally no one has ever used. See,
What?
okay, so as you play through this incredibly bloated platformer game that is paper thin, you gather relics, but you don't gather whole relics. You gather thirds of relics, and you share those thirds with your friends on the PlayStation Network because every game needed to have a network feature.
What?
So you would need to
Let's
cross
fucking go.
collaborate to be to complete a whole relic, and then the relic would be like, you can dash twice.
Oh, yeah.
We'll let each other know in our party chat, like, yo, I got this one. Let's go.
So it's so genuinely terrible.
Make better use of it than posting pictures of when we delete the game like we did with Killzone Shadowfall.
God. I guess we need to do the roundup. Are there any specific moments anyone wanted to bring up about anything? Bob and I played what was it, that Terraformer shooter on We Share Your Dreams episode 3. That was better than Killzone Shadowfall.
Okay, on Dreams, I was like, what do you mean you played Fracture?
See, I think this game compares well to the glut of 7th gen shooters that all look the same, have, quote, a novel concept for a mechanic.
and are
that-
definitely smart.
and are definitely smart because, man, that's a whole fucking... We have a whole generation of this game, basically.
We do. Quantum Theory, Conflict Denied Ops, Mind Jack,
Yes, this is very Mind Jack, I feel.
Inversion.
It's
I
insane.
was trying to remember what that one was called.
Inversion?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. There's so many, they just fade away, you know?
I think the new Shadowrun was like that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't...
Maybe Damnation. Maybe Damnation was actually good. It features like an evil cowboy.
It's
Oh no, it has a 30 on Metacritic, so I guess not.
you know, I haven't said it so far, but the visuals in this are really impressive for a launch title. You know, it's hard for people to recall because not many people had a PS4 or an Xbox One at launch, and even fewer people can remember this shit because they let it go. But it took years for Call of Duty to look this good because they wanted it to run at 60. But by and large, third-party titles didn't look this good for years. So this game was a hell of a looker at launch. And I think running at 60, it's really neat to look at. I don't think the art design is as strong as it is in 2. But it definitely has a really neat look, and I think that's one of the stronger aspects of the game.
Mhm.
Is this aesthetic they have when it comes to designing buildings and environments, and your main gun and none of the others for some reason.
Yeah, the guns are so much cooler in earlier Killzones. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, because it has a complete, like Killzone 2's tone is radically different from this. I think 3 gets you a little bit closer to this in aesthetic design, like the color grade and the environmental design and look.
2 is really, really like they love Jinra.
Oh yeah, no,
and the farther we stray from that, the worse it gets.
100%. I really wish they would make a PS5 remaster of 2.
Yeah.
One, because you could reduce the input latency, please.
Right.
Because I think that's the worst input latency in a game possibly ever. Because they spent, a ton of time shading it to make it look cool as hell. And I think that would be of value. That would be of more value than this game because there's so many design flaws in this. And in Killzone 2, your main antagonist, the main dude, your whole squad's trying to take down, is a fucking people, regular listeners know I have this problem. I can't remember if he's Colonel or General Radek.
Oh, I was thinking Vasari because he also is really good.
Vasari's good, but yeah, you're the guy you sort of look at as your main bad guy. From a mechanics, from a gameplay perspective, is Radek because he can teleport and has a lightning knife, and that fight is cool as shit. There's no one in this that cool. There's no segment in this as cool as the mech segment, because that mech is like, I don't even know what sort of mech design to reference from it. It's just a really cool segment, and I was expecting more set pieces like those.
The set piece where you get the lightning gun in Killzone 2 is great. There's nothing even close to that in here.
Right, and that's a shame. I was really assuming that the back end of this game would have 2 or 3 of those, and I think the coolest set piece near the end of the game is maybe skydiving onto Helgen.
Yeah, that felt like that was the only set piece there was.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure.
Every time I fought one of those 4-legged walker robots, I had like the feeling filled me that it always does with first-person shooters, which is more first-person shooters need to have more sections where you fight giant 4-legged walker robots because it's always better than what else you're doing.
I support that so long as the checkpoint doesn't put me with my back to one.
So
fuck those checkpoints.
When I saw the checkpoint pop up, because I was killing them pretty fast, and it was like, here's the checkpoint. Then I killed another, and it was like, here's the checkpoint. I'm like, man, it's a good thing I was inside this building and safe when it gave me that checkpoint. I could see how that would possibly go wrong. Maybe they put something in to prevent that. And then Casey immediately goes, no. Oh, no. God.
We didn't prepare for shit. Just die.
Buy our DLC so you can play the hard mode where you have 3 lives.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, why would anyone do that?
I don't know.
Right? Like, yeah, this game's so enjoyable.
I'm sure there's someone who really loves Killzone Shadowfall.
I don't think so. The Killzone fan that I know had his heart broken by it and doesn't want to talk about it ever again.
Yup.
We picked a perfect time to record this, too. Like 2 weeks ago, they finally deleted the Killzone website, so that's super dead.
Yeah, the shit's done. It's a shame if they didn't keep turning out that one franchise. If they had done 2 and 3 and gave it a break instead of what's the turnout rate for 2, 3, and Shadowfall? Let me look this up.
Yeah, that was back to back. The company didn't release anything else but Killzone.
Yeah. It just kept coming. It was kind of nuts.
I mean, that was the era when everybody had to have a better shooter than Halo.
Yeah, every 2 years. Every 2 years, you get Killzone 2 in 2009, you get Killzone 3 in 2011, and then you get Killzone Shadowfall in 2013. Like, Jesus, guys.
Man, it's embarrassing. Okay, Dan, is this better or worse than Halo 5?
Okay, I thought you were going to ask if it was better or worse than the Vita game, and I'm like, from what I played, the Vita game's way better.
I think it's pretty safe to say it plays a lot worse.
Yeah, it definitely.
And the story is actually somehow dumber.
Yeah, I got enjoyment out of playing Halo 5. Yeah.
So even with how bad Halo has gotten, they still could not make a Halo killer.
That's correct, yes. Not out of Killzone.
Now, I'm not sure if Halo 4 might be stupider.
Halo 4's pretty fucking stupid.
It is one of the stupidest games I've ever played.
Now, you saying it's really stupid and comparing it to Halo 5, I'm like, that scene where you're in Killzone Shadowfall where you see all the fucking ships is the same as all the Mass Effect ships in Halo 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
The
yes.
beer. Those are like the same shot.
Imagine if Shadow Marshal got like told halfway through the game, "Oh yeah, no, Shadow Marshal, you're the chosen one."
That would have been better.
Yeah, that's literally all I can think about of just like there's the real chosen one problem with 4, and that's that. But I'm not gonna leaving Halo 4 out of the equation. There's no Halo game I wouldn't rather play than this Killzone game.
Yeah, okay. What about Spartan Assault? I know that hardly counts.
I was like, it might end sooner. It might be shorter, so it was all right. I didn't hate it. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I don't know, man. At PS4 launch, though, you got this, Knack, and Drive Club didn't make it for launch, and Infamous Second Son was launch window as in like April.
I thought it was February. Oh my god.
I think I keep saying it's February, but it ended up being April. Like people
Better than what we're getting now with Ratchet.
Yeah, pretty soon launch window is going to mean anytime in the next 2 years. Okay, it was March. Infamous was March. I thought it was February for the longest time, but no, it was March. So, PS4 launch, it had Resogun, and that was it. So, anyway, is there anything you guys wanted to bring up about this delightful game before we give our scores and wrap it up?
There's a moment in the middle of the game when it becomes apparent that post bisection of the planet, after the wall went up, some brave Vectin, who I believe this game honestly should have been about, rather than like day old Wheaties Lucas, whatever his fucking name is, some brave Vectin crossed that wall and nailed Visari.
Yes.
I want to see that fucking story.
That bugged me because, like, they have the line in there about how they reckon that she is more than 50% Vectin.
Yes. No, that was weird.
Which makes no sense because, like, but her mom is literally
Visari's daughter.
You know how fucking man that man had to have been? Like
The most powerful
120% man.
Yeah, the super Vectin gun.
Fucking Scott Steiner crossing the wall to go sleep with Visari.
Come on.
Good taste, haver. Some to Visari.
or Visari.
Yeah, it also felt like we were supposed to find out something about him because there's even those lines about I learned not to ask about that, and referring to her father like real early, and it's like, okay, they're gonna expand this, and they never do.
Is it a thing having to do with Visari in this? Then we will learn nothing.
I mean, it makes sense. They didn't know what to do with this plot, so they killed the main character at the last second.
No, that was very brave and interesting.
Yeah, it sure was.
Man,
Also,
it's the worst thing.
now the Wikipedia says this, so I'm going to take the Wikipedia's word for this.
Probably shouldn't.
That Echo shooting Sinclair in the head during the middle of his war speech prevented the war?
No, that's bullshit. That's not
I
in
also
this
saw
game.
that there.
What?
I saw that there where they're like, well, they did that and it's over, so that must mean no bad things happened. So I'm just going to extrapolate that the war ended now.
Yeah, that's stupid.
I'm going to say that the developer wrote that in.
Somebody
Yeah,
go to the Wikipedia
sounds-
page for Shadowfall if you have a Wikipedia account or you just give a shit more than I do right now. Fucking delete that end of that sentence before
That
pulling the
sounds
trigger.
exactly like the person who wrote this game's grasp of how history works.
Yeah.
Like, they did it. All she had to do was shoot him in the head during his big speech, which his soul was linked to the weapon. So now the weapon slowly disintegrates. So there's no problems anymore.
Yeah.
And 2 planets are created so everyone can live in peace in their own homes.
Again, I thought that the final mission when they did that was going to be her going to stop the weapon, not just killing the guy, because what's that going to do?
Once you hear the speech going the whole time, that's when you know she's literally just killing someone who's making a speech.
Right. I had the hope that this was going to be like a full-length level. You do that, and then you'd go do the other thing. Instead, it's just like, oh, no, that's the end of the game.
Also, it's fucking apparent that if that scene should have been something like... Honestly, it should have been about, like, the psycho-violence, right? Like, it should... If anything, it should have been the opposite conclusion of what this Wikipedia thing says.
Yeah, where that just motivates, like, yeah.
Yeah, it
Causes
just
more
adds
problems.
more fuel to the fire. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Yeah, the war was prevented because I shot a man while he was making a speech about how we shouldn't forgive them.
Like, I saw that wiki thing, and I read that after finishing and went, that doesn't make sense. My read of this was it was her doing petty revenge, and they didn't know how to end the game.
Apparently that thing about it preventing the war is on every single page that mentions it of the Killzone wiki. That's a developer.
Or a very motivated fan.
Yeah, I'm going to say that given fans we've interacted with
They
from
also-
various fandoms.
They also like Star Wars Episode 1 on the PlayStation.
It has revolutionary AI.
Hell yeah, this did too.
Yeah, it did. The amount of times I have so much footage of these soldiers walking up to a doorway, me blasting them away with a shotgun, and then the next 2 just walk in right after him. Like, okay, he died.
Hey,
I got this, bro.
I think the AI is really good where they refuse to open the door to come at me because they know I'm already aiming down sights aimed at the door.
It's so... I had a guy get caught in a room nowhere near where anything was happening, and he just kept leaning against a wall and looking to the left and right over and over. He got stuck doing this for a minute. This was during the segment where I cleared out a house that was completely unnecessary that I could have walked past during that cliffside level 2. And then later when you come back, it respawned all those people. Anyway, I think we got to wrap this up. Any other final statements before we give our final statements with a number? Well, we'll go ahead and start with Dr. Agro. Dr. Agro, give us your final conclusive statements and a number out of 10.
Killzone Shadowfall is partly an unfortunate product of its environment. And like I said, there's a lot of what could have been really cool ideas in it that just add up to nothing. But it's not as broken as some things I've seen. It's not as offensive as some things I've seen. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's got great visuals. Some of the gunplay is fun. It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it is a pretty fair summary. Okay. Let's move on to KZ next. KZ?
It wasn't hyperbole to say that I've never been more miserable making content or doing things that would lead to content for the GigaBoots Podcast Network than I was for playing this. The amount of times I was just upset, confused, and disappointed at where the story went, because there are some parts I was actually anticipating, and then they just said no. I don't think I liked a single level. Like, I feel like I liked parts, but then there were other things jammed into it. Some guns just don't work. None of them really feel satisfying. The story is insane. Yeah, 1.
Okay. Bob?
I've had to review my other scores and stuff. I also remembered one part that I thought was really funny, where the train segment, where you see all the bombs on the train, and then suddenly the train is now moving, even though you didn't turn it on and it was currently stopped.
Yes.
And then you have to get out of the train and jump onto the the plane, and I was like, wow, that was really weird.
This game isn't done.
No, because it's a launch game. But yeah, this is mostly like a kind of generic bad shooter. I've played shooters that feel way worse, though. The plot is really what pares it down. So I'm
so sorry.
I'm gonna give it a 5. Like, it's honestly, like, I've played so many degrees of worse shooter. You can't believe it. Like, there has to be this huge range. I almost gave it a 6. Like,
you explore way too much.
Fair. Yeah.
Like, this is about the same level as Pokemon Sword and Shield to me. That's why I have to think it was that 5. Of like, this was a series that was actually good, and they made a bad one.
From that perspective, I totally get it. That this is a series that was good, and they made a bad one.
There's nothing that can prove that to me, to be honest.
I mean, it was never Pokemon good, but this is like, yeah.
I mean, most things aren't. No, most things are not as good as 5th gen.
Yeah, well, the Pokemon average 7 out of 10 franchise.
You should be put in a fucking meat grinder. So moving on to feel.
I'm going to give this a 2 because that's the number of levels I enjoyed in it.
I wish I could be in that spot.
But think of it this way, right? If one of those levels was the hour-long one, that's a lot of value. That's 1/7 of the game.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, that one, honestly, I kind of like that one.
Yeah, no, me too. That's one of the better levels in this fucking game. I guess I'll go next. Killzone Shadowfall has upsides, has really downsides. But playing it wasn't a literal nightmare for me. The shooting and various aspects of the gameplay feel fine, but a little outdated. It has some ideas. It's got some real fucking brain damage when it comes to fucking designing a level and communicating to the player what it wants.
Yes.
But really, it's not a deeply aggravating game for me to play. I think it's all right, and I certainly had my fun with it, but it's like 40% of the levels are not great. You can have some fun in those levels, but at broad strokes level, it's really not that great. So I was arguing between a 4 and a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 because I would easily revisit this before I do Demon's Souls or The Last of Us Part 2 again. So I really wish this wasn't the dumbest pile of fucking shit.
I'm impressed, that this has tied The Last of Us Part 2 and had an extra person.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, in terms of our canon video game spoiler casts, it's tied for the lowest scoring one.
Yeah, I think I would have scored this lower like I did The Last of Us Part 2 if they put a person, say, into a cog and he was crushed slowly as he yelled at you, "Deep, isn't it?"
Yeah. Last of Us 2, I still think has a worse story. Just because it's so much more pretentious.
And excruciating, but...
Yes.
But yeah, it's...
It's true that there wasn't any part in this that made me as angry as Tommy showing up in The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the rest of my life not playing that game.
It's really solid. That story is insane and terrible and miserable, but at least the gameplay fired neurons at all for me. I'm like, I can get into a flow and find fun blowing this person's head off as they gurgle.
So this is the last ironic spoiler cast we do of an old game just to stare at it and go, oh man.
Is it?
Sadly, no.
Oh no.
No.
Look, man, can't we just do Knack 2 instead of Knack 1? I regretted finishing the game once. I really don't want to do that again.
Well, I have to play Knack 1.
You keep whining, we're going to do the Knack pack.
Oh, hell yeah, the Knack
Besides,
pack?
we already have one more spoiler cast already planned, which Aggro now has to be part of because he was on this one. It's like
Oh, fuck.
It's like a
What?
trap.
He found way to the mousetrap.
You have to be here for the revisiting of Days Gone, free on the PlayStation Plus collection.
No.
Sorry.
Oh. I got 30 minutes into it.
Wow.
Oh, no.
Well, Aggro, I have good news that 30 minutes is 1% of the game.